name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. And tonight, our special guest star is Mr. Noah Forrest.
Me? Oh.
Hey, Noah.
How you doing?
So, Noah, I can't believe, not that I can't believe it. Finally, Hollywood got it right, you know? I know that you were in a very special production.
Right.
Could you tell us about it?
Yes, The Making of the Mob New York.
Yes.
On AMC.
AMC.
It just aired, just finished.
Yes.
But the DVD release is October 20th. It's available for pre-order now, and there's going to be 43 additional minutes, as of today, maybe more,
Yes.
of lost scenes because a lot of scenes didn't make it into the program.
Will any of those scenes be your scenes?
I would assume so.
Okay, that's
I would
great.
certainly hope so.
So, again, who did you play?
Okay, I played Carlo Gambino.
Oh, my God. Was he a bad guy?
He was a bad guy, but the public persona of Carlo Gambino was this kind of, private gentleman who went about his business. But there was one thing about Carlo Gambino.
Right.
If you ever said anything bad to him, you'd probably end up dead within a week. So he was a very dangerous guy, very well respected and feared within the mob. And that's the only way that you can stay on top for so long as he did. Probably the most powerful mob boss in history. And no attempt ever made on his life. He was feared and respected. Two things, if you can get them right at the same time, can make you pretty powerful.
And, knowing you and working with you, I know they got the casting right. Congratulations. I'm so happy and proud to have, for you and for being able to call you friend and to have worked with you. I'm just so happy for you.
Well, I appreciate that. And the casting in itself was an adventure. I've never had 4 casting calls, including 3 callbacks for any part. Usually after 1 or 2 callbacks, they figured it out whether they want you. Mm-hmm. But this was interesting because it was a coast-to-coast casting call. Hundreds of people submitted. I mean, overall thousands, of course.
Could I ask, what can you talk about just the submission process? Because I wouldn't
there was a posting online
Okay.
when this project came out on your various casting places like casting networks, etc., and various others. And it was also submission through agents, so people with agents were also submitting. And the reason I was able to get in to be seen for this is because the person doing the casting director, a girl named Chastity Thomas, a very talented, very professional casting director who I have a lot of respect for. I worked with her on a show for Atlas Entertainment called The End of the World. It was a doomsday program. And she calls me up and she says, I think I have something you might be good for, needless to say. And there were no guarantees. Okay, so she called me in for the initial audition and said, I'm going to bring you to the callback. Okay, the callback was like 2 or 3 weeks later with one of the writers. And we did a heavy back and forth improv. I read for Frank Costello, I read for Vito Genovese, I read for Lucky Luciano. I mean, I read for a lot of people. Then after that, it was pretty much out of her hands. It was only if they wanted to see me again. I got the 3rd call back. And this time, it was a Skype audition with the director, John Ehler. So they put me in this little room. It was like the size of a closet. They put the computer here. John Ehler, the director, was in LA. He comes on the screen. And I remember this vividly. Chastity Thomas, the casting director, was standing off to the side. And we start riffing because they were so heavy on the improv. They wanted to know that we could think on our feet, make stuff up, and improv was so important to them in this. We had the script, but the improv was also important. So we were doing this back and forth, and it was getting real funny. And I was just trying to keep pace every time. And as you know from working with me, I really don't get to a loss for words. So I was able to keep some things going. And at one point, John Ehler, who I said, the great director who worked on this, he throws me a real curveball. He says, okay, you're Charlie Luciano, I'm going to be Meyer Lansky. And he says to me, Charlie, I don't know if we can hang out together because I'm Jewish and you're Italian, I'm circumcised and you're not. Now, where are you going to go with that, right?
Right.
So I said, that's all right, Meyer, maybe my Gumata will let me get a circumcision and then we'll be the same, I mean, whatever it is.
That's lovely. That's great.
But, people
good.
watching, it's like, what's he talking about? But anyway, that's the point. It doesn't matter what he says.
Right.
So then after that, I get called for another callback.
Oh, God.
And now we're in Manhattan again, but this time John Ehler is in New York, and now we're face to face. And I remember meeting a couple of other guys who were reading for Costello and Luciano again. And they had me read Vito Genovese again. I never read for Carlo Gambino. They never showed me Carlo in the script. And I remember working with the guy who was reading for Lucky at the time, and he said, "Oh, I just got this material last night." And he kept walking over to the table to refresh his memory. And this is a lesson for anybody. You don't have to memorize 20 pages if they give it to you the night before, but you better have 1 or 2 scenes off page. You better be ready to give one clean reading.
Right.
And he just couldn't get through it. So I knew my part cold, and we were doing it that way. And then there was a waiting game, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and like 3-4 weeks later I get a call, and it's not Luciano, it's not Costello, it's not Genovese. "Would you like to play Carlo Gambino?" And I was like, "Of course." So after that, I still didn't get the script. There was a big hush-hush, as you know. We were on non-disclosure, and a lot of guys didn't know what was going on until we.
And you followed that non-disclosure because I
We
remember
did.
you were working on a show of
Yeah.
that I was working on, and you said, next year I'll be able to talk about it.
They wouldn't let us talk about it.
Right.
And now we find out where we're going.
Right.
We get a call from the transportation department. "You guys are going to West Virginia."
Wow.
West Virginia, I've never been to. They put us up in a hotel. The area was great. We were 2 blocks from where John Brown was hung for the
Oh my
Harper's
God.
Ferry raid.
Wow.
So the historical aspect of it was great. We'd walk around, we'd take in the history. But still, we go to wardrobe, but we still didn't know AMC was involved. We didn't know the scope of it. We didn't realize anything. It was such a hush-hush around it. They didn't want to talk about it, and we had to sign non-disclosures. We couldn't talk about it. The first day we got to set, because we all were talking, we're like, "What's going on? Did you hear anything? Do you know anything?" We get to set, and we see they're building Vegas, they're building Cuba.
Oh my God.
They had millions of guys working. They had a green screen the size of a 5-story building. They took over this property that used to be like a railroad manufacturing location.
Right.
Acreage upon acreage upon acreage. And when we saw the equipment they were bringing
What do you
in,
think the budget was? Any idea?
the budget was well into the millions.
Right.
10, 15.
Wow.
It was huge
Right.
when you consider post-production, marketing, etc. And maybe 30. Look,
Who knows, right?
I really can't gauge it. All I know is when I get to a set and it's top-notch
That's
and
what
there's
this
money to burn and nobody cares about money.
Right.
I mean, we had all the AMC executives hanging around, but that was also created a lot of pressure now. You had a lot of people watching every moment of it. So it was pretty intense.
That's fantastic. I mean, it reminds me of the Hollywood days, I mean, that's...
This was probably the biggest thing I worked on. And now you've got, but the interesting thing about it is there are so many well-known characters in this, as I mentioned, Luciano.
Right.
Friend of ours, Gregory Chiaffi, played Tommy Lucchese.
Right now, yeah, Greg.
And you worked with him on
Dark Circles.
Right.
And he wrote it, and he wrote the screenplay, and he starred in it with me.
Right.
And it was unbelievable. It was a student film for LIU Post, what's it called?
CW Post?
CW Post,
Right.
LIU. And it won all the awards. It was like a thesis. But I'll tell you, it's unbelievable. And it's been in other film festivals.
Yeah.
And it's like a crowning achievement for me, but it was wonderful. He's an unbelievable writer and an excellent actor.
Yeah, so he was Tommy Lucchese. Another buddy of mine, James Casey, was Joe Bonanno.
Wow.
And Craig Ravella, a guy who I've worked with years ago, played Vito Genovese. And I ran into him at the callback and the auditions were like, "Hey, good luck." He's like, "If I don't get it, I hope you do."
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
"Look,"
nice.
I said, "Wait, let's see what happens. There's a lot of characters, you never know."
So how was it hanging out with these guys after?
But that's the thing. You're on set now with all these characters, and everybody's kind of like taking a personal interest in their own gangster. It's
Right.
like, well, hey, my gangster was tougher than your gangster. You have all these personalities colliding.
Right.
And the amount of work, we're talking a month and a half of principal photography
Right.
for an 8-part series. It's unheard of.
Was it mostly guys, or were there a lot of girls there?
Well,
on the set too?
Craig's Vito Genovese character had his wife, Anna Genovese,
Right.
and she was played by the very talented Yeshi Pfeiffer, who's a great actress. And there was the Cokie Flo character,
Right.
and she was one of the prostitutes that testified against
Right.
Lucky. So there were many female characters involved, but it was a testosterone-driven project.
Right.
You know, it was all gangsters jockeying for position, trying to whack this guy to get ahead. I mean,
So the town that you were hanging out in, I mean, when you weren't shooting, was it cool? I mean, the people...
it was fun.
What were the town folk like?
We were in Martinsburg, West Virginia a lot of the time.
Yeah.
We were in Holding. We were in our area. The windows were boarded up.
Wow.
Nobody could see in, but they'd see all these guys with, you know, period suits hanging out outside.
Yeah.
People would drive by like, what's going on here? Word gets around, the news crews come around, and eventually things started to become evident to the locals. But it was really a quaint little town that was overtaken by wise guys.
And no one was... did people try to interview you, or did you have that
Well,
experience?
I didn't do any interviews. A couple of the guys did, but people would walk
Weren't
in
you
off.
not supposed to do it? I mean...
I didn't reach out to any of the news, but I think that was probably controlled and
Right. Oh, I
allowed
see.
by whoever was handling that.
Right.
But people would walk in off the streets, and because we had, you know, the craft services, and they'd be like, is it okay if we have a granola bar? So, yeah, go ahead.
Did you sign any autographs? Or,
I didn't, and I'm glad no one asked.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to jinx myself. Now I'm not signing autographs yet.
Yeah.
Plus, we couldn't talk about it. People were like, what are you doing? We signed non-disclosure agreements.
Will there be a sequel to the making?
They
of it?
announced it's going to be the making of the Mob Chicago.
Right.
Now, does that mean crossover for me? I don't know yet, but I do know, I can share this, that if Making of the Mob Chicago is successful,
Right.
Making of the Mob New York Part 2
Oh my God.
is coming back.
So are you excited about that?
Well, I hope I work before then, but yeah, I'm excited about it. You know,
That's it. So, you know, I was mentioning the guy who played Lucky Luciano.
right?
What was his name?
Rich Graff, I believe.
Yeah, he played, we did this show here for Ken Kushner.
Oh, I see.
And so he actually played a character on The Way to Go, but and his credits in the character name rather than his name. But it's interesting. And we had Greg Chiaffi on the show too.
One of the scenes I have is Carlo and Lucky. Another scene I have is Carlo and Vito Genovese, played by, as I said, Craig Ravella, who did a great job. But this was an interesting experience because they had us all in a hotel.
Right.
You have downtime, as you know. Everybody's hanging out. I remember one night, you can't buy this stuff up here. It's called, you ever see the show Moonshiners?
No.
One of the guy on the show, his name's Tim. I forget his last name.
Right.
He's got this authentic moonshine that he just bought to market. He was making it in the woods. Now he sells it legal. I couldn't wait to get Tim Smith, that's his name. I couldn't wait to get Tim Smith's moonshine. So I drive down to the local 7-Eleven to have it at the 7-Eleven.
Oh my God.
So we had a little moonshine party with Tim Smith's moonshine. It was a great time. There's so
Okay,
many
you know
great
what?
things.
Before we run out of time, we've got a couple of clips here. I'd
Let's
like to
do
show
it.
at least one of them, okay? So here's a clip of Noah Forrest as Carlo Gambino in The Making of the Mob.
He reaches out to a mid-level gangster in one of the other New York families, a 46-year-old Sicilian underboss in the Mangano family, named Carlo Gambino.
Why don't you tell me what's on your mind?
I don't know how much more of this crap I could take, Carlo.
Now, you know Lucky. The man holds a grudge. You think I plan on taking orders from the Manganos and Anastasia the rest of my life?
So what are you waiting for?
The right opportunity. As should you. Just stay in the game.
Genovese sees an ally in Gambino, a like-minded mobster with ambitions of climbing the ranks of the New York Mafia.
Carlo Gambino was old school, quiet, reticent, secretive, very secretive.
Bravo, man. Bravo.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm so proud to. I'm proud that I know you. I'm proud of you, but I mean, like, I'm
Now,
just,
this was episode 7.
Oh wow.
So I'm sweating through the first 6 episodes to wait till I finally make an appearance.
Right.
And that scene with Craig Ravella, again, who plays Vito Genovese, who does a great job, that is basically him telling Carlo, look, you know, they're trying to cut my authority. They're undercutting me. And this is when these two guys get together and really start to conspire to move up in the mob. So this is, for me, when it really got interesting.
That's it. Did you think you made any like lifelong friends on this?
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't it great? I mean, when you meet people on the set and it works, the chemistry.
It's a unique situation because, you know, it's a big moment and you remember those moments. It's too bad you can't just freeze those moments in time, but then they become great memories. So yeah, I consider a lot of these guys friends of mine who were on the show. I also forget to mention Anthony Bischiello plays Joe Profaci, also another great guy. So yeah, there are guys on this show that I will work with again. That's for sure.
You know, there's a lot of stars that put their faces up on, and people telling the story as well. I mean, I saw like Vincent Pastore and other people, and
right, but that was Ray Liotta's voice, which was really cool.
And Ray Liotta, right?
He was the main host, of course.
But they brought people out to talk. Also.
They did,
and
it's interesting.
Did you meet any of those guys, or was that done in a separate location?
That's all done in the post.
I see. Okay.
That's all post-production, but it was interesting to hear Giuliani, who for years I would watch on the news as a kid when he was crusading as a DA, a fearless DA. I mean, really a fearless guy. It's interesting to see his take on it because I know he really had deep feelings about the mob, and he cleaned up the Fulton Street Fish Market. I mean, he did a lot.
That's true.
So, but this show overall was a real validation, I would say, for pursuing the things I pursued. And that scene in particular, the first real introduction of Carlo, you would see him here and there. The first time he spoke, though, is what got it going.
Now, I'll tell you, I mean, you had to be on that show. I mean, it was the perfect show for you to be on. I mean, it's sort of like your whole acting career was at least heading for this show. I mean,
I did. I married a mobster.
I mean,
I did a Gintown, a great show, directed and edited by the great James Lester, who's also an editor on this. Right. So yeah, it seems like I was moving in that direction. And with you, Stunaz, we're doing all these things.
That was a fun show, yeah.
So it's funny. It just seemed to gravitate that way. But I don't think people see me only as a gangster type.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think I can do other things.
I think so too. I think I could see you I could see you on the other side of the law too. I could see you. I mean, as a policeman.
Sure.
Because like an intelligent detective.
But those are juicy parts, man.
I know.
Cops, gangsters.
Right.
If you say to actors what kind of parts you want to play,
I mean, I could see you being like...
It's fun playing the heavy.
Like a Columbo kind of guy, but with an edge.
Fun playing the heavy.
Absolutely. I mean...
so much more fun than not.
Right. No, and you do play it well. And so do you have any scenes with girls? Did you have any...
That's the funny thing. Someone came up to me and said, how come Carlo doesn't have a wife? Well, he had a wife in real life.
Right.
But when you think about the way they had to edit everything and you know, there's so much they couldn't include. We shot so much, man.
Right.
So many scenes.
You know what? I know it's a little. We just saw one clip, but there's one more special clip that I'd like to show.
Yeah, let's show this one.
Okay, so one more clip from the making of the mob. Let's check it out.
The man's not well. He's been shooting his mouth off to the cops, politicians. He's lost his mind.
If he's sick, you take him to a doctor.
It's too late for that. It'd be a mercy killing.
Killing? You don't kill him already. He's a good friend of mine. A decent man. If he dies from the clot, that's one thing.
Someone's got to make a tough decision here. Between Moretti and Costello, the hearings in the press, our business is going to hell. And Frank's not doing a damn thing about it.
You got a problem with Costello now?
It's not just me. It's everyone. It's the whole damn commission.
Carlo, I am the commission.
Charlie, look.
No. The answer's no.
That's awesome, Noah. I mean, you have the talent and you got the look. I mean,
appreciate
no one
man.
looks more like the character that you play in everything that you work in.
And I was worried about this scene, and the reason why is the choreography was challenging.
Right.
I enter the room, I have to walk over to him,
Right.
I have to follow him back.
Right.
Then at the end, you saw the circle we do.
Right.
That's not easy, because you don't want to step on each other's feet.
Right.
And you're trying to choreograph it in a way and speak so it's smooth. So of all the scenes, I was worried about that one.
But the thing is, I've seen how you move, and you're not a wooden character.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, if the person you were with, the person playing Lucky Luciano,
right.
I think you saved that scene actually.
I appreciate it.
I shouldn't say that because that's, but it's true. I mean, you bring a certain life and a certain look That I mean,
It's
you
interesting.
are a mobster. I mean, if that's your character, that's who you are.
What's interesting also about that is you see the point where Carlo says somebody has to make a tough decision here.
Right.
Carlo was always viewed as kind of the quiet guy. But like I said, when you're portraying a character, you don't portray it for the public persona.
That's it.
You're portraying the guy who you knew he was behind the scenes. An intense guy, a feared guy, a tough guy. I don't care what he looked like. If you messed with this guy, you ended up dead.
Right.
And he had to command that kind of respect with who he was.
And just the idea that even though I'm sure there were scripts involved, the whole thing was your whole auditions in the beginning were scriptless in nature.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
So I mean, it was your portrayal. This is your portrayal of someone. So it was filtered through you, and there's no way that that you wouldn't exude that power. I just know what type of actor you are.
Well, that's the great thing about scriptless is, I mean, everybody should look at this as kind of like a building experience now.
Right.
When you get into situations,
Right.
and there was one point when we did a scene in Cuba,
Yeah.
and the director says, okay, no, go get in there and tell him what's wrong with the drug business.
Right.
And that scene didn't make it. I hope it makes it into
hope
the
so,
DVD.
too.
And I say, it's bad for business, it brings too much heat, all it does is make for ambitious politicians. But when you've got 40 people watching you,
And you say that.
you have to say it. You can't say,
But how many people have?
give me a tip. What do I say?
But how
You
many
gotta
people
say.
have the capacity to say that?
If you do it long enough, it's kind of like a muscle memory. You train to do it. You got
But
to.
not
do
everybody has that capacity, and you do, and that's it. I mean,
it's a
I've never
daunting
seen
thing.
you. I've never seen you stumped on a set. I'll put it that
Yeah.
way. I mean, you're always able to come up with the right thing and a powerful thing.
I've gotten to a point now where I feel comfortable doing it.
Right.
I'm confident that I can do it. So, a break's got to come because I paid my dues. So let's go.
I know. I can't wait. And you know what? When would you come on the show again when the DVD comes out? And
Absolutely. We might have some more clips on there.
that's what I'm saying. So we could show it again. That's exciting. So, any projects that you're working on currently?
Well, I want to move into, as I've discussed with you recently,
Yes.
production
Right.
is the next stage. So I've got some people I'm working with. You met Kim the other day. She
She's
did it. She was
fantastic.
she was a real natural.
Right.
And she's someone who works in the corporate world and felt like, you know what? I want to do something creative. So, I don't want to get too specific, but I do know that things are going to happen. And I wish I could, discuss everything here. And there's a couple of reasons why I won't, because I don't like talking about things that haven't happened yet.
Right.
Even though they're pending, even though there are some hands in the game that look pretty good.
Right.
You got to keep an even keel about it.
Yeah, you're a person who is always upfront about. I mean, you do what you say what you do. You're an honest person, and you never make promises
Right.
that ultimately you can't keep.
I always tell people in this business, if somebody comes to you and says, I'm guaranteeing you this,
Right.
look, you got to walk away because they're BSing you. There's no guarantees. Even if something looks like a surefire thing, it's not a surefire thing. It just doesn't exist.
That was my mistake. When I first got back into show business after Hollywood, someone said that they were going to work on, like we were doing a pilot and some other stuff, and I got all excited. Again, it was supposed to be for something for like AMC and all this stuff.
Right.
And I told people about it, and they looked at me like, that's not going to happen, and it didn't happen. you know.
Right. That's the worst.
But that's also a lesson, is that you don't. I had forgotten that people sometimes don't tell the truth in this business.
And that was part of the whole thing with the gag order, the non-disclosure.
Right.
There were family that were like, what are you up to? I had to be very, I was able to give them a little information, but there were some people I didn't even tell.
Right.
So you sit on the thing for a while. You want to tell people. You're filming already. Once you've been on camera and you're talking, you pretty much can say it's going to happen.
Right.
But even then,
Right.
you don't know what's going to make it in. And there was
That's
some
true.
real questions. I didn't know that scene I just did was going to make it in. I didn't know either of those scenes for sure because nobody tells me what's going on.
But even on my little show script list, there have been times when we've had actors on the show and their scenes just don't make it in. I mean, it's just the way
It's
it
the
is.
nature of the business. You want to shoot more than you can use as a rule because when you get into post,
Right.
you got to have more than you can show.
You have to make decisions.
You don't want to have less.
Right. And I've been in those circles too. And that's the worst, is when you have less. But
Hell yeah.
I mean, so I'm excited for you. I'm excited for your new ventures. I'll tell you, production on this little scale that I've been doing it's fun. It's a different kind of creativity.
Right.
and there's a lot more control of the project. But as much control as you think you have, you also lose a lot of control too. As an actor, you come on a set.
Yeah.
All you have to worry about is your performance.
Right.
And hopefully you uplift the other person's performance, as you have with me. With Stunad's especially. You helped me so much with, as I hit my microphone.
That's all right.
You helped me so much in Stunad's because I was feeling insecure on the set, and you helped me raise it to the next level.
Well, I'm happy I was there for you, and I don't mean to interrupt that point, but I have something for you here, Alan.
Oh.
This is an official Making of the Mob fridge magnet.
Oh, great. I can't believe it. That's great.
Okay, so this is a gift for you. Not everybody has these now.
I'm sure.
Okay, so here. You're going to put that on the fridge when you get home.
That's it. I'm going to show it to my wife will see it every day when she's getting her cereal, and my daughter when she gets her Clear Splash from
She'll be like,
Stop
what's
and
this?
Shop.
What's going on?
This is awesome. See this? Look at this. It's cool.
There you go.
I appreciate it. This is excellent. Thank you. I appreciate it.
But this is interesting because there are some things for, and we discussed the marketing campaign. So there were these posters all over the place.
I remember when I was, I go to work, they'd be in the subway, they'd be on buses. I'm thinking, holy smoke. I mean, there'd be billboards.
Oh yeah, it was pretty intense.
And I'm thinking, oh my God.
And they didn't tell us that. So we didn't know, first of all, who we were working with, right. AMC. We didn't know that the marketing was going to be that way. But that's the nature of the business sometimes. You don't get filled in on everything. But it's a pleasant surprise.
Right. And I can't wait for Chicago. I can't wait for New York too. I hope, if they're smart, they'll have you in both those.
Well, I certainly hope so.
You'd go to, and it would probably be filmed. Well, who knows where it'd be filmed?
No, I think that they'll look. If I had to guess, I'd say they're back in West Virginia.
Because they still have the thing.
Hey,
that's it.
You know, there are perks, there are tax breaks, there are familiarity. You're there. You can create any scene you want.
I mean, when I worked in Hollywood at Universal Studios, we were in Greece, we were in, all of
it didn't matter.
It doesn't matter where you are.
That's the magic of it.
I know, it's beauty. It's really good. Well, maybe I'll throw in my audition tape for the Chicago one or whatever. That would be fun.
You should get it. And in fact, I'll give you the
we'll
contact info for her. I'm not gonna say his name so she get flooded with stuff. But, you know what I'm saying? But definitely, I think you should get into Chicago.
And one of these days, LMC TV has helped. Has backed the laundryman. I have to do that before. Yeah, my dad. It's the
That's
story
right.
about my
That's
dad.
the story of your dad.
We still haven't done it yet, but that's something that if you could find the time, I'd love you to be on that project.
Hey, you can count on me for anything you're doing.
Maybe you could be the hero cop that saved my father's life.
Tell you why not.
That's it. You enjoy working with my dad, right?
Your dad, Max, is probably the best improv actor I've ever worked with, and the reason is not only is he 100 and a half.
Right.
I mean, will I be able to speak when I'm 100 and a half? Will I make it that far? I mean, the guy's a treasure.
That's
it really is.
And he's loving life. He enjoys it. He's got girlfriends. And
heck yeah.
I know and you played his son.
I know, that was great.
I know. And he made you came off looking tough, and he made you smile. I loved it.
He made me smirk, which I don't feel bad about.
No, because
that was worth it.
It was a natural thing.
A lot of people point that out. They like that moment.
I know. I definitely loved that moment. As well as some of the other moments, which, especially you going up the staircase with Tina. That was funny. But,
that was cool.
So I'm looking forward to working with you. I'm so happy that you came on the show, talking about this.
I enjoyed coming back.
I mean, and the making of the Mob. Wow. I mean, I hope I can only see bigger and better things for you.
I hope so.
And also the little things like Scriptless and Scriptless Empty.
Hey, I'm never too big to work.
No, and we have fun,
anyway.
right? And it's fun. We do it.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
And it's a good training ground, too.
That's it. And we're never too old to learn, right?
We are never too old to learn.
But there's always, unfortunately, we've come to the
end
that
again.
same
Oh
same
my
thing.
God.
There's only one thing left to say.
Yes.
Just one.
Do it.
That's a wrap. Good night, folks.